things that make no difference to how much money your YouTube channel actually makes: the size of your subscriber count or how often you post. But what actually makes a big difference is building a simple mechanism that runs completely on autopilot that allows you to make an income without tons of subscribers or posting every week. This is what we call the no friction sales funnel. And it has worked for thousands of people to turn tiny audiences into big businesses. I know that sounds insane, but I've seen it happen over and over again. In fact, I just got a text from one of my clients who generated over $30,000 within 24 hours of posting his first video. And there's also Adrian, a web designer who went from $0 to $100,000 in his business, posting roughly 3 videos a month. Meanwhile, I was recently talking to a friend whose YouTube channel has racked up thousands of subscribers, but she's making less than $200 a month. It's the secret that YouTube just doesn't want you to know about. The absolute non-negotiable of being able to make this work is, first and foremost, you have to know exactly who your ideal viewer is. So before we dive into how to set this up, I've created a powerful tool called the Ideal Client Decoder that will identify your perfect audience in just minutes. So comment decoder below and I'll send you the link to access it for free. This is just step 1 of the process that I'm about to share with you, so you definitely want to have this resource at your fingertips. All right, so before I dig into what we call the no friction sales funnel and how to apply it to your channel, let me just start by addressing the biggest myth in content marketing: the idea that you need a big audience to make big money. If you're running a business, views and subscribers are actually the wrong metrics to focus on. So I want to show you why. So there is a cycle that people tend to get into when they start to leverage online marketing. And it's what we call the social media hamster wheel. And it's what most people get trapped in. So you create random content or content that you think is great and it's going to be perfect for attracting your ideal clients, and you sit there hoping that it will. From there, the algorithm, and this applies to every platform, not just YouTube, is confused. So you are working really hard for the algorithm, creating a ton of content, hoping that you would attract clients, and the algorithm cannot work for you because it doesn't know who you're trying to reach. From there, you get nothing. I'm going to put crickets here because that's the sound of what happens after you follow this process. And ultimately, from there, you just get into a vicious cycle of creating even more random content. So because you're guessing and you don't know exactly who you're creating content for and what you want to be known for and how you want to serve and help through your content, you end up confusing the heck out of the algorithm. It can't work for you. You then get crickets on your content and nobody's actually engaging. And then you just get in this cycle of creating more and more of that kind of content. So it's just a pain cave to be in, and it is not helpful to you or your business. This is further proven by a recent study that was shared that 79% of creators are experiencing burnout, and that's also business owners, with that number rising to 83% among those struggling to monetize their content and their platform. And nearly half of all content creators are earning less than $1,000 a month. So again, that just further proves if you're following this path, you are working really, really, really hard to not make ultimately that much. So why does this happen? Because they're playing the entirely wrong game. They're chasing vanity metrics instead of focusing on the metrics that actually drive growth and income. When you are paid by AdSense, you earn roughly 1 to 3 cents per view. That means a video with 100,000 views might earn you between $1,000 to $3,000. But take this video, it generated $178,000 from just 7,300 views. That's $24 per view. About 800, let's just put that in perspective, 800 times more than what you get paid from AdSense. So the big difference here is I wasn't just trying to attract any viewer. I became laser focused on attracting the right viewers, people who needed exactly what I had to offer. So you need to break your brain a little bit in every sense, from thinking that you want every single eyeball in your content you want to go viral, to realizing you need the right eyeballs first and foremost. So this takes you from random content to the right content for the right people. This is crucial to understand as the first aspect of this. So now let's talk about what I call the no friction sales funnel, as I mentioned earlier, and really explain how to create this in the most seamless way. And I know you might be thinking, oh, this is gonna be super complicated or technical. It's not. Because when most people hear the word sales funnel, they immediately think of complicated technology, expensive software, landing pages, email sequences. But the truth is, in the beginning, you don't need any of that. So this is the very simple, no friction sales funnel. It starts with targeted content. What does that mean? Right content for the right person at the right time, okay? From there, you simply have to have a very clear call to action. Tell them where to go and what to do. And from there, you get them to a place where they can convert from a stranger on the internet, a viewer, a consumer, into an actual buyer. So that's it. No fancy tech, no complex automation, just those 3 simple steps. So let me break down exactly how this works. Targeted content. This is content that speaks directly to your ideal client's specific problems and desires, and it demonstrates your expertise, your knowledge, and provides real value. Your call to action. It's at a strategic point in your content when you invite viewers to take a simple next step, whether that's downloading a free resource, booking a call, or checking out your product or offer. And number 3 is your conversion. This is where you convert viewers into clients through a sales conversation or a purchase. So the beauty of this approach is its simplicity. You're not trying to build a complicated marketing machine right out of the gate. You are focusing on creating relationships with the right people at the right time and guiding them toward a solution that genuinely actually helps them. So, perfect example of this, Kirby. He just crossed the $1 million mark in his business using this approach. And he uses his YouTube channel as a vehicle for value to build trust and authority with his ideal clients so that when they're ready, his business is the only one that they want to work with. And that's why this approach works so well. You're not trying to convince random people to buy from you. You're simply showing up for the people who are already looking out for a solution and they happen to find you and what you have to offer. So, how do you actually create content that attracts your ideal clients? That's the big money question here. First, we're going to address the elephant in the room, AI. So AI platforms have proven they can provide information maybe better and faster than pretty much any social media platform. But that doesn't mean that YouTube is in trouble. In fact, it's actually made YouTube even more powerful. So there's AI over here, and then there's YouTube. And it's really not that they're working against each other. They're actually really complementary to one another. So I want you to think of it this way. AI is replacing Google search for kind of the what is content or tactical information, but YouTube still owns what I call emotional search. So this is things like, who do I trust? Who can I trust? Who gets me? And who can help me do what I want to do in the way I want to do it. So when it comes to YouTube content, the requirements are evolving if you want to keep up. So in your videos, you need to show a couple of key things. Proof that you have done what your viewer wants to do. You need to show confidence and that you can actually guide them. And you need to, most importantly, show a sense of alignment and understanding of what they actually need and what will help them solve their problem. So AI can't replace that right now. Only content with your voice, your frameworks, and your story actually can. That's why YouTube is remaining critical for high leverage businesses, even as AI is reshaping the edges of search and how search functions. That brings us to your competitive edge, which we call market of one content. So what does that look like? So the first thing when you're thinking about market of one content is you first and foremost have to command authority. And what I mean by that is your insights should feel like a total revelation, not just generic advice that anyone on the internet could copy and paste. People need to feel like you see something others don't and solve problems in a way that no one else can. So that means you're truly positioning yourself as an authority and also commanding attention, trust, and authority. So the next piece of this is number 2, creating polarization. because this can only come from years of experience and knowledge and unique insights that you bring to the table that nobody else does. You're kind of a one-of-one in the sense. If your message is too safe, it's not going to stand out in today's day and age. You need to challenge common beliefs or expose myths that are holding your audience back and holding your ideal viewers and clients back. So the next piece of this is what I call showing transformational power. So this means that you're not just spewing out information, which again, anyone can do, so can AI, really fast. You are not just giving out solutions or answers, you're actually showing before and after transformations, yours or your clients. You are showing real results. You are showing real proof to back up what you're talking about and that you can be a trusted guide and expert. So I've mentioned this in past videos, but it's really a day and age where we're seeing the rise of the real expert and the fall of the fake guru, which is actually a really exciting time for the people who have earned their knowledge and their expertise. So I want to give you some examples of market of one content for a couple different niches. So for a relationship expert, for example, instead of generic videos like how to improve your marriage, you might create something like the truth about winning your wife back and what no one else will tell you. Polarizing, unique perspective, perfect. So with that positioning angle, while other relationship experts might give generic advice and try to reach a really broad audience, this example shows people exactly how to create a shift in their partner's emotions without begging, chasing, therapy, and the things that don't work. For a restaurant consultant, which is another great example, something like restaurant marketing tips is super generic. It doesn't work. It's not market of one content. How I build one of America's best pizzerias, and how you can too, is a positioning angle that proves market of one. It is not giving generic advice. It's actually the strategies that make a restaurant and pizzeria stand out. And that's actually two examples from two real clients that we work with. So these titles don't just inform, they actually promise transformation. They position you as the only logical choice for your ideal client. Now, I want to be really clear about something. When you create content on YouTube, you don't need to obsess over production quality. Value is so much more important than fancy editing or cinematic visuals. I started my channel with just a webcam and natural light from a window and a stand that was just made up of books. And that simple setup got me to my first 50,000 subscribers and six-figure income. Remember, your job isn't to entertain the masses. It's to provide solutions for the people who need your expertise. So focusing on delivering value, not just creating a viral entertainment piece of content, because that's not ultimately going to convert into what you're looking for your business. Okay, so as you start creating content for YouTube, as you start to really dig into what are my market of one topics, and again, just as a reminder, comment decoder below, because when you do use that tool, you're gonna get hand-delivered 10 market of one pieces of content that you can make your own. So once you understand the kinds of content to create, some topics, etc., there are different levels to content on YouTube and the purposes that they serve. So I want you to understand the different types and what they will ultimately do and sort of how you can manage your expectations around the content that you're creating. And remember, the biggest question you want to ask yourself when you're creating content on YouTube, especially if you want to use it to generate leads for your business, is ultimately, what are you optimizing for? Because in this sense, you are not optimizing for views or subscribers. That is not the goal, because that is based on vanity metrics or monopoly money. It's just not real, and it's not going to turn into revenue for the business. So you are optimizing for leads and sales. Ultimately, or providing a ton of value, positioning yourself as the authority, that's what you're optimizing for. So you always want to keep that in mind. And that also takes the pressure off. If you're not seeing these viral views, which you don't need to, you're not going to care as much, because if you're generating an actual sustainable income from this, that's way more rewarding and valuable. Plus, you're able to serve at a super deep level for the people who need you most. You're not trying to put out random content to serve everybody at a surface level. So ultimately, there are three main types of content that you want to create. So knowing what we're optimizing for, there is evergreen, there is depth, and there is viral. So those are the three types of content that we want to keep our focus on. So each of them serves a different purpose for your business and your income. So evergreen content is SEO driven. It's long-term growth content that generates consistent traffic and leads due to search ranking and also showing up in all of the other traffic sources on a platform like YouTube. So it has high search demand, but low competition, and provides value months and years after publishing. It just keeps working for you. It's why we call it an evergreen lead machine or an evergreen sales machine. The depth content is content that strengthens audience connection and builds long-term loyalty. So it might get moderate views, but high engagement and retention, and it humanizes you and differentiates you from competitors. Now, viral content, which people think is the best kind of content to try and create, is completely uncontrollable. And truthfully, viral content, it might get this big surge, but it has a shorter shelf life, but high impact in the first couple of days. So that's how you want to think about it. It's often, emotionally driven. It is often something that's a trending topic and it's going to get a lot of attention right away, but it's not necessarily going to continue to generate results like evergreen or even like depth can. So understanding the balance here of, okay, let's create maybe one of these per month, one of these, and then focus the rest of the pieces of content, whether that's 1 to 2 pieces, on strictly evergreen. But truthfully, the videos that are going to give you the best return in terms of actually generating leads and sales, it's going to be your evergreen content. And again, they work for you for the rest of the time because they tend to be timeless topics. So maintaining somewhat of a balance between all of these gives you the best chance of establishing your authority, reaching the right people, and ultimately nurturing folks into becoming clients, whether it's now or later. So now let's talk about the different funnel stages of your content. So your content should address viewers at different stages of their buyer's journey. This is crucially important. So you have your tofu, mofu, and bofu, which means your top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel content. So think of top of the funnel as more so awareness, and usually it's more so viral-ish content for colder leads who are farthest away from making their purchase decision. So the goal is to reach new audiences and introduce them to your knowledge and expertise. So these videos tend to cast a wider net with high interest topics. Now, middle of the funnel content, these are educational and trust building videos for warmer leads who are beginning to seek out and research solutions to their problems, but aren't in immediate pain or urgency. And the goal is to nurture and educate these viewers. And then bottom of the funnel, these are conversion focused videos for hot leads actively looking for a solution right now. So they address urgent pain points and have high intent to invest in help. And what I mean by that is your buying decision is here. So we want to keep your bottom of the funnel content as closely related to where they are when they're going to make a buying decision as humanly possible. Whereas it's a longer buyer's journey to go from top of the funnel content down here. So these people need to be nurtured and educated consistently before they would be able to make that buying decision. Whereas these people are pretty much at a place where they are ready to buy. That's why your videos that get the least amount of views, the bottom of the funnel here, tend to be your highest converters. So when you understand how this whole framework works, you can actually create a really balanced content strategy that nurtures leads through every stage and drives consistent conversions without relying on massive viewer numbers. So the key is to know what your goal is with each piece of content before you create it. If you don't do that, you are going to end up on that never-ending cycle of random content, algorithm confusion, and getting nothing from it. So some content is going to attract new viewers, some is going to build trust, and some is going to convert viewers into buyers. Each piece serves its purpose in your overall strategy. So this is why I always tell my clients, frequency doesn't matter as much as relevance. So it's better to publish one highly targeted, valuable video per week than to churn out daily content that doesn't actually serve your ideal client. So before I share the next crucial step in creating your no friction sales funnel, I want to remind you about the ideal client decoder tool I mentioned earlier. So this free resource will help you identify your perfect audience in minutes, which is essential for creating the targeted content we've been discussing. Comment decoder below and I'll send you the link to access this very powerful tool. So now that you understand how to create market of one content, let's talk about how to turn that content into actual clients. The key is having a clear call to action in every video at very strategic places. And this is where most people fail. They create this amazing content, build trust, establish authority, and then they leave their viewers hanging with a simple, thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe. It is such a missed and expensive opportunity. It's costing you so much. Every video you create needs to be more than just valuable content. It needs to be a stepping stone toward a complete solution and transformation. And that means always including a crystal clear call to action. So again, I just want to remind you how this is weaved into the no friction sales funnel. So when you think about it this way, we start the process with what we just went over. It is targeted market of one content. So we have your content here. That is really your YouTube video. And this can apply to really any platform, but just so you know, that's your content. Then you go to your clear call to action. So that is what we're focused on here. How do we take somebody who watches this piece of content and turn them into an actual potential lead or buyer? And remember, the simplicity is it goes from call to action to wherever you are going to convert them, whether that is getting them to book a call You want to get them onto a webinar that leads them into whatever your offer is. You want to send them directly to purchase. Whatever it is, this is the final step of the no friction sales funnel. You are setting up your content, which is free online. You have a clear call to action in that content, and then that call to action is going to get them to convert into whatever path and next step you need them to take. Because usually, if we just leave it here and we're saying like and subscribe in that call to action, what happens? They watch your content, they forget about you, and they tend to not watch your content again, which means that you're missing out on so many conversions and buyers. And ultimately, that means you're missing out on being able to serve people at the deepest level and get them the result that they're looking for. So you have to think about it from that perspective. Being able to send them somewhere where they can get additional help and really trust you and look at you as the go-to expert and authority is a huge act of service. This call to action is bringing people into your world. So you and your business become the go-to for them when they're ready to seek out that solution that they're looking for. So here's how to structure your call to action really effectively. So for your coldest audience at the top of the funnel, you want to offer something like a guide or checklist, something that is really low barrier to entry and would be exciting for them to opt into. For warm audiences, you want to give them something a little bit more meaty, like a training, webinar, VSL, video sales letter, video training, whatever it may be. And then for hot audiences, give them a direct path to working with you. So again, that could be as simple as getting them to book a call or go directly to purchase. Don't just drop these call to actions at the end of your video when most viewers have already left. Instead, you need to time them really strategically. The first CTA needs to happen within the first minute to 90 seconds when engagement is highest in your video. The second needs to happen within the first quarter of the video, delivering major value at that point. And the final CTA is at the end of the video. The winning formula is to make each call to action feel like a natural next step, not an interruption. So for example, instead of saying, check out my program in the description below, say, I put together a complete walkthrough of this system. Grab it below if you want to implement this for yourself and your business. And that could be a free guide, that could be a video training, etc. But at least you're taking them from viewer to getting them onto your email list to be able to access that training or that guide. Then you can continue to nurture them and show up as the expert that they need. And whether, again, it's now or later, they're going to eventually want to buy. And instead of book a call with me, say if you're facing this exact challenge and want to see how this approach could work for you in your situation, I've opened up a few spots on my calendar this week to be able to walk you through X, Y, and Z to really position it as a benefit to them of why they would want to speak to you. So when done right, your call to action is actually increasing viewer retention because people know there's value coming, and they convert better because they feel like you're continuing to help, not trying to sell. So remembering that your YouTube videos aren't just content, they're actually client attraction machines that can work for you for the rest of time. So each piece of content needs to be designed to bring the right people one step closer to working with you. And as a reminder, leveraging the right CTA also gives you a massive opportunity to own the algorithm instead of the algorithm owning you. Why? Because we're taking people from content, in this case, we're talking about a YouTube video, to your email list. And the beautiful thing about this is, like I said, then you own the email list, you own this audience. And therefore, this hyper-targeted list of people who are really interested in what you're talking about, you then are going to send them every YouTube video you create to further nurture them and position yourself as the expert. And that drives more views back to your content that are super targeted, telling the algorithm that this is the kind of person you're trying to reach, and then the algorithm works for you to reach more of those people. Instead of you constantly working for the algorithm, again, it's working for you. So to really simplify all of this, the key to unlocking consistent revenue from your YouTube channel comes down to a concept that I've basically fine-tuned over the last 10 years, and it is authority before audience. And what I mean by that is it's positioning you to focus more so on building trust with the right people at the right time than focusing on trying to gain vanity metrics and a big audience. And that is crucially important to this actually working and to creating a no friction sales funnel that truly converts. Because if you're reaching a wide audience and surface level people at all times and really creating broad random content, no sales funnel, no matter how technical or great it is going to work. So certainly the easiest possible funnel, which is literally just a piece of content to a clear call to action to a conversion site, it's not going to work either. So we have to make sure that we're focusing on the right things, which is strictly building trust and positioning yourself as the go-to expert. And what this looks like in practice is the complete opposite of what we talked about earlier. So this all starts with your ideal client, which, as I mentioned, that tool will provide to you in a matter of minutes. So you get clarity on that. From there, we are going to make sure that we are serving these people with what they need. So instead of that random content, we're creating hyper-relevant content for the right person at the right time. And the next piece of this is what I call algorithm categorization, because when we're reaching the right person with the right information and the right content, the algorithm starts to understand who we're trying to reach and what we want to be known for. And then the internal traffic sources, which I'll put that here, start to work in our favor. And they ultimately are going to bring us more ideal clients. So search, suggested, and browse, which are the key traffic sources on YouTube, they start to recognize, okay, this channel is really speaking to, let's say, restaurant owners. And that's who's watching the content. Okay, so let's find more of those people using our internal traffic sources by pushing the content in front of them. Because if you're creating random content, the algorithm doesn't know what to do with it. So it's not going to leverage its internal resources and traffic sources to get more people to look at your content, because they're not going to want to watch it because they have no idea who they're trying to reach. When you're crystal clear on these factors, it all starts to work in your favor, and it all starts to work organically and on autopilot without a lot of effort on your end. And this happens as you start to build authority with each video, and every video is hyper-targeted. So this is really the actual flywheel that drives business growth on YouTube. And it's the complete opposite, like I said, of what most people are doing. And instead of creating random content, hoping to attract a big audience, you actually start being crystal clear on who your ideal client is and what specific transformation you provide to them. So a great example of this, and like I said, this can really work across any platform. One of our clients, Nikki, generated over $100,000 in 21 days by sending just one email to her list of 174 super targeted people. And Denver turned 96 subscribers into over $100,000 in just 30 days, and he's now over the 7-figure mark from a relatively small channel. So the key to these kinds of success stories is understanding that it's not about how many people see your content. It is about, again, I'll say this a lot because it is important, it's about the right people seeing your content at the right time. And that's why it's so important to be strategic about what you're creating. And this begins with that crucial aspect of the entire strategy. Again, knowing exactly who this is, how you can best serve them, and what kind of messaging is going to speak directly to them and be hyper relevant, not random. And again, that's why we created the Ideal Client Decoder, the free tool to help you identify that in a matter of minutes and hand deliver you content topics that would be relevant for your ideal client. So comment decoder below and we'll send you the link to access it right away. So let's put everything together into a complete strategy that you can implement right now, even if you're starting from zero. So let me just break it down into a couple of steps. Number one, we're going to define the ideal client. That again has to come first if I haven't said that enough. So use that tool to get crystal clear on exactly who you're serving and ultimately how you can best position yourself in the algorithm. And again, this can apply to any social platform. Number two is from there, creating market of one. We'll call it MOO content. So develop content that is speaking directly to your ideal client's specific challenges and desires and focusing on commanding authority, creating polarization, and showing transformational power. For three, no friction funnel. Keep it simple, targeted content, clear call to action, and a very easy way to convert. So there's no need for complicated tech or expensive software. And truthfully, the best way to start this is just to have a link to book a call with you. And that doesn't require you to create a webinar or VSL or video training of any kind or a lead magnet. You simply can just start getting people booked on calls. Number four is balancing your content strategy. And what I mean by when I say balance your content strategy is making sure that you have a mix of evergreen, depth, and viral, focusing heavily on evergreen and addressing viewers at different stages of their buyer's journey. Number five, absolutely vital, track your metrics. Know your data, know what's working and what's not, because they actually matter to your business. And things like leads and sales are your most important metrics, not just views and subscribers. So remember, this isn't about becoming a content creator. It's about becoming a business owner who strategically uses content to attract ideal clients for your business. You're not trying to build an audience of casual viewers. You're building a pipeline of qualified leads who are ready to invest in your solution. So the beauty of this approach is that it works from day one. You can actually start generating leads and sales with your very first video, like I said at the top of this video. So we've covered a lot in this video, so I hope that these key takeaways help you sort of take this away and process it and watch this as many times as you want to really let this sink in. You don't need complexity to be able to convert strangers and viewers into clients. You need trust, you need the right content, and you need to make sure that you have an actual process and system laid out to convert that person into somebody who is in your world, in your universe, and getting nurtured by you and understanding that you actually have something to offer. Because honestly, if you're good at what you do and you can actually help people, then selling becomes an act of generosity. It is not sleazy or gross. So if you implement the strategy, you can start generating leads from your very first video, even if you have 0 subscribers right now. You don't need to wait until you're big enough to start. It's actually a missed opportunity if you do so. So you can start right away as long as you're creating the right content for the right audience, like I've said a million times. And remember, the first step is getting crystal clear on who that ideal client is, what they need from you, and the transformation you can provide. And again, just comment Decoder below to get a fast track to understanding those key elements. And if you want to see more examples of how to implement this strategy, you want to be sure to check out how to make money on YouTube from day one. This video right here, it is a complete blueprint on how to do this. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.